Realm of the Mad God has been a big part of my life. I first started over 8 years ago, and since then I've sank over 1,500 hours into it. However, in recent times I've enjoyed the game less and less. The last time I seriously played was when the Summoner first released, and even that only kept me around until the campaign ended, and I was once again burnt out by the excessive grind. And now, as of uploading this video, 2 weeks ago a game by the name of Darza's Dominion came out. It claimed to be a recreation of the early Realm of the Mad God experience, and some people called it a realm killer and ROTMG but better in every way, so I figured, let's take a look. Before I get started with the actual review, it's important to say that Darza's Dominion isn't technically a new game. It first started in late 2016 by ex-developer Jukes, and first became public as a mobile game in early 2017. A PC port was released, updates came out, etc. before the developers had to rewrite the entire render pipeline. This ended up being a thread they had to keep pulling, and they ended up reworking a large portion of the game's backend and client. The mobile version was taken from the Play Store late 2019, and I'm not entirely sure if the PC port stayed up, but now, after 2 years, the game is finally released on PC with the mobile port slotted for Friday, May 13. And with the history out of the way, let's look at the game itself. I'll be basing my review off my roughly 20 hours in-game, as well as Wanderbot's hour-long playthrough, as he is someone who's unfamiliar with both the game and the genre, while I am someone who is experienced not with the game, but with the genre as a whole. The tutorial is the very first thing that any new player sees, and it's important to have a good tutorial that brings players into the game. So, with that said, Darza's tutorial suffers in the same way Realms does. That is to say, it's complete and utter shit and doesn't teach anything. Now, there are two caveats to me saying that. First off, Ripple Studios, the company that currently owns and works on Darza, knows that it's shit. They've made a few band-aid fixes since launch that aim to make the tutorial a little bit more informative, and they've talked about a larger rework for the tutorial being on the tables, which is a lot more than Realm can say. One thing I hope they don't overlook in the new tutorial is map interactions like teleporting, because that's something that Wanderbots, who was playing the game for the first time, had no idea how to do. The second caveat is the existence of challenges. In Darza's, challenges are one-time completable events that teach you how to play the majority of the game. Get to level 20, run dungeons, consume gems, max out your stats, qualify for Soulbound against event gods, and the most important part about challenges is that they reward you with in-game gold, the otherwise premium currency. I'll talk more on that when I get into microtransactions. The leveling up experience in Darza's Dominion is a lot more fun than in Realm of the Mad Gods. I admit I might be biased because I've played Realm for 8 years and have spent over 1,500 hours in it, but I still think Darza's has a lot more to it. In Realm, the leveling up process feels stagnant, with the only difference between the lowlands and highlands being a slight change in grass color, and the enemies not really appearing more distinct or powerful. It's way too easy to wander into a much higher level area and get absolutely fucked on in Realm of the Mad God than it is in Darza's. To contrast, Darza's realm looks and feels visually distinct and different, which helps create a better feeling of progression. The music adapts to what biome you're in, and it actually fits, unlike Realm's music. And the little things like the pop-up telling you what biome you're in with suggested levels when you first enter it, make it feel like you're actually going exploring and leveling up and progressing. My only issue is that some of the quest bosses' level range is too tight. Like, despite being right next to the spooky thicket and looking at a quest boss for the spooky thicket, which is level 15 to 19, my quest is still the pink leopard which is 3,000 tiles away, because I'm actually only level 15 and not level 16. I also think you should be able to buy quick level potions, which double your leveling speed in the tavern for 100 glory. Just so, once you get past the point of leveling up and going to Godlands immediately dying, you don't have to really worry about leveling up much anymore. But that brings me to my next point. The Godlands in Darza's Dominion are way better. In Realm, there's only two Godlands, the Snowy and the Mountains, and it really doesn't matter because you'll fight the same gods in both Godlands. So it's merely the illusion of choice, and there's no reason to go to one over the other. Coupled with the fact that they spawn right next to each other, the Godlands are basically one biome. However, in Darza's, there are 4 different Godlands, each in the 4 cardinal directions of the map. Each Godland has its own sprites, aesthetic, and music, and beyond that, and most importantly, gods. Each Godland has a few unique gods, and going to different Godlands just chooses which gods you're going to end up facing. This is leagues better than what Realm has. There are also teleport stats used in safe spawns, as well as the fact that at level 20 you spawn in the Godlands, so you can always access whichever Godland you want, no matter if there's other players in there or not. So no longer will you have to run to the center of the Dominion every single time when there's no players but you in a realm. I do think the gods could use a little bit more pattern diversity, and I do think there should also be more gods, like each Godland eventually as a long-term goal should have its own set, and there should be no overlap. This would just lead to a more dynamic Godland farming experience. Another issue I have with the Godlands is the shot contrast. These antlion shots look great in the desert where it's normally spawns, but stick it in the molten south and suddenly they're very difficult to see. Which, coincidentally, is another thing that would be fixed by each god having their own designated Godland. But with that said, let's move on to... This is the part that Realm has Darza's beat in no contest. For what it's worth, even though Realm's monetization has soured the game for me, whenever Deca does commit to making a dungeon, it usually comes out pretty good. Darza's, on the other hand, does not. The dungeons have anti-rush mechanics, but the enemies are too tough and tanky to take down, which just makes dungeon grinding feel like a slog, the worst case of this being the river. However, this isn't something set in stone. These dungeons are mostly considered a legacy and set for a rework in the future, and looking at their cellar or their newest Butterfly Woods, which just came out earlier this week, there's been noticeable improvement, and I do believe that the dungeons can in the future be a lot better. Personally, my suggestion, and this is a very long-term goal, and I know that it's a big ask, but it would be really awesome if each Godland had their own set of gods that dropped their own set of dungeons. So, choosing a Godland not only chose which enemies you would face, but which dungeons you would run. And if you wanted to farm a specific stat, like Dexterity, you could choose between 4 dungeons to run, which would add a lot more variety than Realm currently has. This would create a highly variable mid-game, which would help get newer players into it, and keep longer players around and more engaged longer. Now, I'm aware that it is a very large and difficult ask, but I really do think it would make Darza's a lot better. Pets are the most polarizing thing about Realm of the Mad God. Their implementation was almost undeniably the tipping point that brought it down the path it is today, and Darza wanted to rewind to before that choice was made and go in a different direction. So how have they handled pets? Right now, pets are only available through gold. This isn't as bad as it seems, because you can earn gold for free, and I'll talk more on that in the microtransactions section. Anyways, it's a one-time purchase, no hidden fees or upgrade costs, and the pets are permanent. Most of them cost 700 gold, while there are a few of them that cost more, and they don't actually provide much inherent bonus. With a few exceptions, each pet is only plus 5 to 2 different stats, which is a worse bonus than any tier 4 ring. It's definitely a lot less pay to win than Realm, and considering how easy it is to get one if you just beeline for it, there's an argument to be made about it not being pay to win at all. Crafting is this game's loot pity system. Killing enemies allows them to drop materials, which then can be stacked up to 10 and traded for a crate of various type depending on the materials. Crafting honestly isn't all that rewarding once you get to the point where you can reliably farm Godlands, but that's okay because not everything has to be for every player. Darza, the strongest boss in the game, drops more stronger materials, but I haven't collected enough to get a crate, so I don't know what they drop, and I don't have an opinion on that. The other crafting comes from essences. After defeating a boss that drops a rare UT, you can go to this guy and select their essence, with a total of 3 essences at a time. From then on, every time you defeat that boss, you collect 1 essence, and after collecting a lot of essences, you can craft the UT. Personally, I think it's a lot better pity system than Realm's Item Forge, and my only concern is that as dungeons and more UT dropping bosses are added, the current 3 essences will feel more and more out of touch. I think a way to earn essence slots over time would be cool, albeit unnecessary in the current game. With the core gameplay talked about, I think it's finally time to dive into... Microtransactions are a lot better in Darza's than they are in Realm of the Mad God. It's just a simple fact. I mentioned earlier how challenges reward you in-game premium currency for free, and you can get up to $80 worth of free gold. You also start out with an extra character and an extra vault chest, and Ripple Team has expressed plans to implement a new daily quest system that could award up to 25 gold daily for free. That system isn't in the game quite yet, so I'm going to wait till it's out before I express further opinions on that. Vault chests also cost 100 gold less per 8 slots, and pets are only a small one-time fee. They've also made attempts to make pay to win less, like removing health dust from the in-game shop and replacing loot potions with a new alternative that benefits the entire group. While Deca seems to be constantly increasing monetization and coming up with new ways to get money from current players, the Ripple team has so far shown commitment to keeping the game as new player friendly and free player friendly as they can, while still maintaining profit. So far, my interaction with the community in-game has been positive. I find it slightly humorous when multiple people start yelling about how much they love lean when the Dominion closes because it's flooded with purple.
This is gonna be great, Charlie!
I love drinking lean! I love lean, Charlie! I love lean!
And running in a large train destroying gods hits that old realm itch. And I was leveling a throwaway mage and some dude randomly traded me tier 9 element and robe, the second best gear for my class. People are also super helpful if you ask a question in chat. Overall, it's a positive experience. The Discord, however, is not so positive. New players have left negative reviews on Steam talking about their bad experience with the Discord, and yeah, I can see where they're coming from. There's definitely a fair share of, if you don't think this part of the game is fair, that's a skill issue and you need to get good. And I personally watched a guy get clowned on for playing on mobile, even though this game was initially a mobile game, because he simply asked when the mobile port was coming. At the end of the day, I think it's important to realize that all multiplayer games will end up with some toxic people, be it Realm, Darza's, hell, even Terraria has some toxic people if you delve into the modding scene. I wouldn't let the community decide whether you should invest in this game or not, but if community is a super important part to you, stay with the in-game community, avoid the Discord. I think Darza's Dominion has a very promising future ahead of it. The developers have already taken multiple steps towards making the game new player friendly. They've expressed future goals like rework tutorial and daily quests, which would also make the new player experience even better, and have acknowledged the game's weakest points. They have a channel dedicated to player feedback and suggestions, and have actively taken suggestions directly from it on multiple occasions. For example, the recently nerfed bears and better contrasting rocks in Molten South were both direct suggestions from the Discord. They've also shown willingness to go back on decisions and change their minds when the community expresses discontent. For example, initially there was supposed to be a quest / achievement that unlocked the second character slot, but people pointed out that was kind of bullshit, and they decided, yeah, you're right, starting with 2 character slots is the best option. Ripple Studios seems to be dedicated to making the game as enjoyable for all players as possible, and that, as well as the quality of the newest dungeon, I truly believe this game has a lot of potential. Is this game a realm killer? No, and it's not trying to be. What it is a good start with lots of potential. Should you play this game? Well, I can't make up your mind, but it's completely free to start out, so go ahead. What's the worst that could happen? What I can say is I'm going to keep playing this game, and I'm excited to see where the developers take it next. That's all I've got to say for now, so until next time, Elmok out.